The NeverEnding Story is a fantasy film that was released in West Germany in April of 1984, followed by the USA release 3 months later in July, with the UK not receiving it until April of 1985. Based on the book by German author Michael Ende, the film was a German production and at the time was the most expensive film produced outside of the USA. Directed by German director Wolfgang Petersen, who first saw success with his previous film Das Boot in 1981. He has since gone on to direct many successful films, such as Enemy Mine the following year, Air Force One, The Perfect Storm, and Troy. Upon completion of the film, Wolfgang Petersen sought advice from his friend Steven Spielberg on any changes that could be made to the finished film to appeal to an American audience. The result was roughly 7 minutes of cuts to tighten up the pacing, and also the addition of a theme song. As a thank you for his input, Spielberg was given the orange necklace prop from the film, which apparently he still has on display in his office to this day. Giorgio Moroder was brought on board to remix some of Claude Doldinger's score, which does bring a slightly more upbeat feeling to the movie. The title song was also composed by Giorgio Moroder, with lyrics by Keith Forsey, and performed by Kajagoogoo's lead singer Lamal. This helped bring attention to the film and still remains a favourite to this day. A French version was also recorded. The film performed very well at the box office, grossing $100 million worldwide against a production budget of $27 million. Almost 5 million people went to see it in Germany, a number rarely achieved by German productions, resulting in a gross of about $20 million in Germany alone. The film follows a young boy named Bastian, who we find out is feeling depressed since his mother's death. Upon his journey to school, he is chased down by some bullies and ends up escaping them by hiding in a bookstore. There he notices a book entitled The NeverEnding Story and meets the shopkeeper, who explains to him that The NeverEnding Story isn't a normal book.
Oh, this is something special.
He borrows the book and takes it to his school, where he hides in the loft and begins to read the story. It soon becomes apparent that he is directly influencing the outcome of the story, which leads to ultimately having the responsibility for the end outcome. Michael Ende was very unhappy with the adaptation of his book, and after an unsuccessful attempt to have the film denied its release, he asked for his name to be removed from it. I can understand his frustrations, however I do think he has gone a bit over the top with his criticism of the film.
Das Wichtigste in diesem Film wäre natürlich gewesen, ein Fantasien hinzustellen, das wirklich Fantasie, die Welt der Fantasie zeigt. Dazu ist zu sagen, was an Fantasie in diesem Film enthalten ist, das übersteigt kaum das Niveau eines mittleren Nachtclubs. Es fehlt eigentlich im Grund im Interieur des Elfenbeinturms nur noch die Glitzerkugel an der Decke und eine Girltruppe, die auftritt, und schon wären wir mitten in einem Nachtclub. Alles, was geheimnisvoll, magisch hätte sein müssen, ist total platt und banal geworden. Der Elfenbeinturm selbst wird in diesem Film gezeigt als eine Art Fernsehturm mit 3 Richtantennen, ich weiß nicht warum. Die Sphinxen sind wohl mit einer der größten Peinlichkeiten in diesem Film. Es handelt sich um ein paar vollbusige Stripperinnen, die da in der Wüste sitzen. Vollends Orgien des Kitsches werden gefeiert im letzten Teil des Films im Zimmer, im Raum der kindlichen Kaiserin, die auf einem gesteppten Hollywood-Bett sitzt. Es fehlt sogar nicht einmal die Muschel im Hintergrund. Es ist einfach unsäglich. Es ist eine unsägliche Geschichte daraus geworden.
You may recognise both actors Barrett Oliver and Noah Hathaway from other 80s films and TV. Barrett Oliver was one of the go-to kids of the 80s, starring in such TV shows as The Incredible Hulk and Highway to Heaven, and films such as Daryl and both Cocoon films. Barrett retired from acting after his last film in 1989, and now resides in Los Angeles as a photography artist and teacher. Noah Hathaway had many roles in the 70s and 80s TV shows, although he is most recognisable from his role in Battlestar Galactica and the cult horror Troll. Noah has also retired from acting, and he also resides in Los Angeles. He now owns and operates a tattoo shop with his wife. Falkor, the Rockbiter, and Gwark were voiced by Alan Oppenheimer, best known for his work on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe cartoon, where he also did several voices. He's a very prolific voice actor, appearing in many film and video games, and is still working to this day. One of his latest roles was as the character Old Timer in Toy Story 4. The special effects are good for their time, and some still hold up well today. However, they don't seem to use the techniques available to them to suit the shots. They rely heavily on blue screen, which doesn't serve some of the shots well. These could have been made to look a lot more credible if they had used front or rear projection methods as used to great effect in other films of the time. They do, however, use a rotating set for the end shots that look great, although in some places it is obvious that a stuntman was used. Despite this, Noah Hathaway performed a lot of his own stunts, one of them where the wolf falls on him nearly blinded him as one of the claws poked him in the eye. He also suffered with injuries during the horse training that he explains here.
We had shot the entire NeverEnding Story in Germany, but I had to go over a couple of months before we started shooting to train with horses and see which ones worked better and for camera. And one of the horses got spooked and went to jump the fence with me on it and didn't clear the fence and fell on top of me and broke 2 of my lower vertebrae. So I spent the first month and a half in the hospital, and being 12, thank God you're pliable and kind of flexible and you recover quickly. So I was able to bounce back from that, finish the movie. But over the years, it just got worse and worse and worse. And yeah, I had 3 back surgeries, 3 back fusions later, and I got to have a neck fusion in a couple of months. This surgery cost, I think it was $184,000, and this is my 3rd surgery. So I probably have in the last 15 years, I probably have just shy of $1 million in back surgeries. And I also have to have a cervical fusion this year.
As much as I love the international cut, I do feel that the original German cut does greatly alter the experience, making some of the characters have more depth to them, and also gives the film both a darker and more serious tone. A good example of this is the death of Atreyu's horse Artax. As harrowing as this may have been to most children, the German version has music that doesn't really start until the end of the ordeal, whilst the international version has Giorgio Moroder's synth music on it. Both work well, but as I am sure you will agree, the German version's lack of music has a lot more impact, as seen here.
Artax, you're sinking! Come on, turn around! You have to now! Come on! Artax! Fight against the sadness, Artax! Artax, please. You're letting the sadness of the swamps get to you. You have to try. You have to care. For me. You're my friend. I love you. Artax! Stupid horse! You gotta move or you'll die! Move, please! I won't give up! Don't quit! Artax! Please!
The film was also a massive success on the home video market and had several reissues on VHS, Laserdisc and DVD. If you want to watch the film today, there's several Blu-rays available. However, based on which version you prefer, both international versions, you will find that the transfers are exactly the same. The only difference is the addition of some special features on the later disc. If you want to see the German version, then this has only been released in Germany so far. However, it does come with an English language option, should you wish to import it. The film received 2 sequels in later years, however unfortunately they were of diminishing quality. The NeverEnding Story 2, the next chapter, arrived 6 years later in 1990 and was dumbed down considerably for a younger audience. Whilst this isn't always a problem, the whole film felt cheap and not as crafted as the original. Despite this, the film did well and spawned another sequel. The NeverEnding Story 3 arrived in 1994 and was dumbed down even further than the budget was. If you want to see a film made with pound-shot props and effects, this is the film for you. The quality of the production doesn't hold up. It's more like a TV special or a pantomime rather than a feature film. In 2015, both Noah Hathaway and voice actor Alan Oppenheimer got the chance to reprise their roles as Atreyu and Falkor for a Spotify commercial, focusing on the popularity of Lamar's title song some 30 years later.
I can't believe after all these years people are still listening to this song.
Me neither.
The film also gained further attention in 2019 when the song was referenced in the Netflix series Stranger Things. Hopefully this will bring the film a new audience who will pass it on as the generations have beforehand.
Reach the stars, fly a fantasy.
The NeverEnding Story holds its place as an 80s classic and continues to be shared and discovered by subsequent generations. Hopefully this will continue, as it is a magical piece and the story is even more relevant these days with children losing their imaginations, and also the lack of substance modern kids' films seem to have. People seem to have different ideas as to why the NeverEnding Story is named so. Some make the joke that it's false advertising, as the film does indeed come to an end. However, I believe that the NeverEnding Story refers to the fact that Bastian is experiencing the story of Atreyu, and we as the viewer are experiencing the story of Bastian. Who knows, someone may be watching us watch the movie, and someone may be watching them watch us, hence the NeverEnding Story.